The University Business Forum was held in Lisbon, Portugal from the 14th to the 15th of February 2019, and the IoT Rapid-Proto Labs project was involved in a panel discussion during the conference. The program link can be found on the UB Forum Portugal webpage. So in this presentation, I'm going to just give a quick summary of some of the topics that were discussed in the forum presentation made by IoT Labs. The presentation began. We had an audience in the event. There were over 100 people attending the University Business Forum, and this is one of the breakout sessions to do with university business cooperation. And Gerard Danford presented for 10 minutes. The summary slides are here in the video. And the first comment made was it was a trigger or a nudge to make people think about cooperation between universities and businesses. So the audience was asked to think if they have one idea, and we returned to this question after 5 minutes. The title of the presentation was The Shoemaker and the Machine Story. And the idea was to stimulate thinking in terms of how universities can systematize the collaboration process with companies. And the shoemaker. So I explained during the presentation that I have been involved in tens of projects between companies and Haaga-Helia University of Applied Sciences. And I see myself in those previous cases as the shoemaker. Each project was like making an individual pair of shoes, one after the other. And those projects were possible because we were able to offer companies a value and leverage our existing networks. And now we're talking about international cooperation between companies and universities. In terms of value added, I showed a picture of the lobby of Haaga-Helia and the students, and I asked the attendees to consider what do they see in that image. And the main point was to emphasize that our students are competencies and resources which companies can deploy in solving problems that they may have. So we need to look at our collaboration with companies in the context of adding value. And one of the primary ways of adding value is to deploy the resources and competencies of students. Of course, we also have the faculty members. So I used an example of a project that I have done with Amur Sports in Finland. Amur Sports are the owners of Wilson Sporting Goods Company and a number of other famous ski brands and clothing companies, etc. And we provided resources and competencies to Amur, and also we provided learning opportunities for our students. And Amur basically had the challenge of trying to understand smart mobility behavior of youth around the world. So they wanted to try and get deeper insights into how young people are using their mobile devices before, during, and after purchasing products on the internet or in the store. And Haaga-Helia have students that are the exact age, target group age that Amur were interested in. And also we had a wide range of network universities around the world that we could also integrate into this project. So we deployed those resources and connected with our network. And what we did is we carried out research in China, Korea, Russia, Japan, Germany, Finland, and the United States with this young mobile group of students. And we did surveys on how their behavior looked in terms of before, during, and after purchasing products, sporting goods products or clothing, sports clothing products. And the findings were highly relevant to AMR. The actual case was not as important as the context of the case, and what this case was meant to illustrate was that the shoemaker creates a pair of shoes. In this case, it was the project for AMR, and then moves on to another project and creates another pair of shoes, and moves on to another project and creates another pair of shoes. These projects can be quite complicated, but the challenge is that we are not systematizing, scaling, and creating a repeatable model when we're following the shoemaker role. Then I turned to the audience and asked them to speak to a person next to them and see if they could share an idea and that they might have about partnership or cooperation, and the audience carried out this little exercise for 1 minute. Unfortunately, there were no immediate project or partner opportunities in the audience, and I think part of the reason for that was that 95 or more % of the audience was made up of universities, and we had very few companies involved in the conference in general, and this in a way illustrated the challenge in making university company collaboration work. We haven't effectively engaged the companies in the process, and the conference was a good example of that. And then I talked about the machine, and the machine was meant to be a term that would just illustrate how we can systematize, scale, and replicate our cooperation behavior with companies if we develop a ecosystem. And to illustrate this point, the IoT Rapid-Proto Labs project was used as an example. And IoT Rapid-Proto Labs, where we have multidisciplinary, which means that we have a wide range of competence and skills or added value for the companies. We have cross-border, where we can draw on these skills and competencies from different countries. And we're trying to build a scalable and repeatable model. So this is the machine in contrast to the shoemaker. And in the machine, we have processes and systems that are developed which occur throughout the, let's say, the funnel from before projects begin to at the completion of projects. As an example, we have project identification processes, or company processes, where we can find companies who would benefit the most from being involved in these type of projects. We have student recruiting processes. We have faculty orientation processes. We have project management communication processes. We have reporting and communication processes. And we have processes for attracting additional university partners into the ecosystem. And then we have processes for reporting what we're doing in the projects publicly and privately. And we have tools that allow the project teams to work effectively together across borders. So basically we're processizing or systematizing the project management activities in IoT Rapid-Proto Labs, which will allow us to scale this ecosystem and make it effectively repeatable in the long term. So the outcome is that it is repeatable, scalable, the learning is improved, and unfortunately, to achieve this type of effective ecosystem, we have to deal with a lot of complexity, constraints, and tensions, which is part of the challenge. But the scaling of the ecosystem is actually one solution to many of the constraints and tensions that we have in this machine model that we're trying to develop in the future. So the whole idea behind the Shoemaker versus the machine, or the moral of the story, is that IoT Rapid-Proto labs, being the machine, allows us to practice purposeful experimentation. It allows us to validate scientifically our findings in terms of learning outcomes and also benefits to the companies, etc. It allows us to construct a systematic and repeatable process or processes, and this is all achieved by creating a collaboration ecosystem, and which companies and universities can join. In general, the presentation was looked upon very favorably, and a lot of positive feedback was received at the end of the presentation, and a number of university partners and organizations were also expressing interest in being involved in the project.